TheorySabers.com. In Yoda Dark Rendezvous by Sean Stewart, we get one of the most fascinating confrontations in the Clone Wars, a private meeting between Master Yoda and his fallen apprentice Count Dooku. Unlike Geonosis or the duels in Revenge of the Sith, this wasn't primarily a battle of lightsabers, it was more so a battle of words, philosophy, and conviction, and I find it extremely interesting, and I think you will too. If you enjoy these kinds of lore videos, please do leave a like on this video, that is all I ask. Now, this invitation came from Dooku himself. He reached out to Yoda through a secret message, one that carried more wariness than arrogance. The Count admits to feeling consumed by war and by the darkness surrounding him. Now, personally, I think that Dooku was extremely conflicted with the dark side, and maybe this was his way of kind of wanting to come back, perhaps, or even to just talk to his old master. Or maybe it was a way to test himself. In his cryptic letter to Yoda, it reads, "Perhaps the temple was the only lantern to keep the darkness at bay, and I was wrong to step outside into the night. Or perhaps the darkness was inside me all the time." Dooku's words carry something rare: doubt. He admits that the endless war has hollowed him out, that the cries of the dying weigh on him constantly. He confesses, "I have come to the end of myself. I don't know what is right anymore. I am tired, Master, so tired, and like any old man, as the end nears, I long to go home." On the surface, this sounds almost like repentance, but with Dooku, sincerity is always tangled with pride and manipulation. And Yoda knows that it could be a trap, yet he accepts the meeting anyway. Not because he's naive, but because if there's even the faintest chance to bring Dooku back, it could end the Clone Wars. When they finally meet on the world of Vjun, the exchange is layered with formality. Stewart describes them bowing, master and apprentice, though now enemies, and then moving into a tense conversation about the nature of the Force, which I find extremely compelling. So sit back and enjoy this one. Yoda begins by pressing Dooku on what he truly believes about the dark side. In one of the novel's most vivid passages, Yoda remarks on the oppressive aura of the Sith world.
"Strong the dark side is in this place. Touch it you can, like a serpent's belly sliding under your hand. Taste it, the blood in the air. Tell me of the dark side, apprentice."
Dooku bristles at the word apprentice, but he answers with a very confident explanation of Sith philosophy. "Half of life, dark to balance life, waits inside you like an orphan, waiting to be welcomed home. To know the dark side is merely to stop lying. Stop pretending you don't want what you want. Stop pretending you don't fear what you fear. Half the day is night, Master Yoda. To see truly, you have to learn to see in the dark." This is Dooku at his most persuasive here in this book. His argument isn't about raw power or domination, but about honesty, embracing desire and fear instead of suppressing them as the Jedi do. And this is a very Palpatine thing to say, or rather dark side Sith thing to say, is that, to embrace the Force, you must study all aspects of it, which is what Palpatine said to Anakin in Revenge of the Sith in his office. Now, Yoda's reply, of course, what do you think it's going to be? It's quite classic. He doesn't dismiss the dark side outright. He actually acknowledges its temptation and power while cutting to the core of its flaw in a comedic way.
The dark side. Power would give me.
So this is Yoda actually acknowledging that it would give him power and knowing that it indeed would. Or maybe he's just being funny and being sarcastic. When Dooku expands on this, saying the dark side gives control over others, Yoda shrugs it off almost mockingly.
Very fine that is, but Yoda has power. Live in a place bigger than this one. If I count the temple as a palace, Dooku is a master of armies, but Yoda is a master of armies too. So far, we are even.
Here, Yoda exposes the hollowness of Dooku's logic. The Count claims that the dark side is about truth and freedom, yet what he really boasts of is control, armies, servants, domination, And to Yoda, this isn't power at all. It's bondage disguised as freedom. The tension here starts to escalate into combat. Their blades clash, green and red sparking in the dark halls of Vjun. Dooku taunts his old master, trying to draw him into hate.
All those years of teaching me, raising me, trusting me. And here I am, the favored son, butchering your precious Jedi one by one. Hate me, Yoda. You know you want to.
But, of course, Yoda refuses. He's not going to be goaded. And even in battle, even with the dark side whispering all around him, Yoda does not give in. His response cuts deep and gives it to Dooku pretty raw.
And yet, even here on Vjun, where the dark side whispers and whispers to me, love you enough to destroy you, I do.
This is the tragedy of the meeting, really. Yoda's words aren't triumph. It's kind of sad. He still loves his fallen Padawan, but he really does recognize that love may mean ending him if necessary, and kind of ending this corrupt version of him to honor the past pure one. The duel continues, but the outcome, of course, is a stalemate. Neither master nor apprentice gains the decisive victory. And in the end, Dooku does what he does best with Yoda, is that he retreats back into his role as Tyrannus, unwilling to abandon his pride, unwilling to admit that he was wrong, even though he has his own doubts, and we can clearly see that. And Yoda departs as well, knowing that he has failed, not because his words lack truth, but because Dooku could not let go of the chains that he believed were freedom. He was unable to turn his apprentice back to the light, and he's wondering where he failed. Now, of all the different meetings in Star Wars, in the books with Sidious and Maul and Sidious and Dooku, Sidious and Plagueis, and Yoda and all of the people he meets with all the Jedi, I have to say this is definitely one of the most intriguing, where you not only have a light sider and dark sider, discussing aspects of the Force, but you have one that used to be the apprentice to the Grand Master himself. It shows us that Yoda, I think he has hope even at this stage, that Dooku could return, and he never loses that hope. It also shows us the seductive logic of the dark side, not just, raw aggression or anything like that, but the idea of honesty through indulgence, really. And it foreshadows what happens with Anakin. Just as Obi-Wan later appeals to the good still left in his friend, Yoda here appeals to Dooku. Both attempts fail, crushed by pride and fear. The Vjun meeting reminds us that the war between Jedi and Sith isn't only fought with armies or lightsabers. It's fought with words and choices in the quiet moments where someone could turn back but chooses not to. And this is always what I wanted Obi-Wan to do, was even though Anakin was far gone and he did atrocious things, Obi-Wan didn't really take a second to try and turn Anakin back to the light. Maybe he couldn't trust him anymore, but I just always think that time in Revenge of the Sith on Mustafar, where Anakin is explaining his point of view of things, from his point of view the Jedi are evil, and he's talking about it and how he feels. And instead of Obi-Wan acknowledging this and acknowledging Anakin's entire life and how the Jedi oppressed him, he just says, well, then you are lost. And of course, that just ends the conversation right there. I think Anakin was open in that moment to discuss some things. And if Obi-Wan had said, Anakin, I can see how you feel. I can see what you're saying. And they have lost their way. But this is not the answer. I think it would have perhaps led to maybe a bit of a different resolution. Then you are lost. And then this is the end for you, my master. It's, it would have been a little bit better, I think. But anyways, that's this excerpt from the book, Dark Rendezvous. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed this excerpt and my thoughts on it. And I hope you enjoyed the old school voices and narration. I hope you have a fantastic day. For all your saber needs, go to theorysabers.com. And I will see you in the next episode of Star Wars Theory. Until then, my fellow Jedi and Sith friends, remember the Force will be with you always.